Hello, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to this Cepinar about GreenSource. Responsible products start with a green source. Welcome everyone. GreenSource is a communication platform to communicate common messages from the forest-based value chain and the industry's strong contributions to the EU agenda for a EU Green Deal. I will moderate this session. My name is Ulrich Leberle, Raw Materials Director in Cepi. And a few housekeeping rules first. So you will be muted from the beginning, and we are recording this session. We will have our speakers, and then there will be a Q&A session, but we would like to encourage you to put in your questions in writing already in the chat from the start as you hear the presentations from our speakers. I would like to introduce the speakers. So you will first hear from Katarina Oja from SEC Newgate. She will give an introduction to the GreenSource campaign and its goals. Then we will hear from Silvia Melegari. She's the Secretary General of EOS, so the sawmilling industry. She will talk about the forest strategy and its implications. Then we will hear from my colleague Margarita Micheli, Forest Policy Manager at Cepi, on the EUDR, so the regulation for deforestation-free products. We will then hear from Michel Steinecke, Sustainability and Circular Economy Manager at ACE, the beverage carton sector, and he will talk about SFM and low carbon footprint packaging and renewability of packaging. Then Anna-Maja Wessmann, Secretary General of EPIS, the pulp sector, European pulp sector, talking about resource efficiency. And finally, Winfried Mühling, he is Director of Marketing and Communication in Pro Carton, and he will talk about circular packaging. We will have up to 5 minutes each of those presentations, and then we will have ample time to read out the questions that we gathered during this call and address them to the speakers. And with that, I will give the floor then to Katarina Oja from SEC Newgate on the introduction of GreenSource.
Hi, everyone.
Yours, Katarina.
Thank you. Thank you, Ulrich, for that introduction. Indeed, I'm Katarina Oja from SEC Newgate EU, and before diving into the more juicy part of this Cepinar, I am indeed here to introduce to you GreenSource. So first of all, what is GreenSource? We like to call GreenSource a digital forum, and this is to disseminate our key messages on social media. The initiative is led by Cepi, EPIS, ProCarton, ACE, and EOS. It was started in 2020 by Cepi and EPIS. Later, ProCarton and ACE joined, and just this year, EOS also has joined our forum. The whole aim of this initiative, like Ulrich slightly mentioned, is to communicate about the benefits of the forest-based industry, to educate, to also create awareness around the industry, showcasing its positive contributions to society, but also keeping in mind, of course, the EU Green Deal and the larger, let's say, policy landscape around us. The posting that we do is done through Twitter and LinkedIn. So we have different kind of messages we put forward, as you will see in a bit. And currently we don't have a centralized account, but the posting is done through all of the individual accounts. We also have a landing page, eugreensource.org, if you're interested to see more information about what we do and what we communicate about. Here we've gathered some key figures. So these are the numbers that are combined for 2021 and 2022. Like mentioned, the platforms we use are Twitter and LinkedIn. On Twitter, the potential reach of our posts is around 2 million. So this means that potentially around 2 million people have seen our posts. Also, I've pointed out here the engagement and the mentions. So mentions is how many times the hashtag GreenSource has been used on Twitter. You also see the numbers for LinkedIn. The thing with these platforms is that, as you will see, the engagement on LinkedIn is way higher, but the reach on Twitter is way higher. So this is generally also let's say the way that these platforms work. Twitter is very fast moving, and the idea there is, of course, as you know, the tweets are short and sweet. So we already reaching a lot of people is a good way to showcase and build awareness and visibility of what we're doing. On LinkedIn, it's of course a bit more content heavy. We have also more space to communicate about our messages, and there what we usually strive for more is engagement. So these are the high level numbers and figures combined. Like I mentioned, the way we put forward our messaging is on social media. We have created a message house with top tier messages about what we want to put forward. We also position the industry as being circular, responsible, innovative, and sustainable. And the type of visuals that we put forward here, I've just pointed out just a few examples. But for example, we do different kind of in-depth infographics. We've also done some videos of experts from the industry speaking about different aspects of what we want to say. Also, we do, of course, static visuals for social media, as well as shorter animations or GIFs or videos. Of course, we also want to be data-driven and put forward numbers to showcase also hard data among showcasing the visual parts and also the, let's say, the fun parts of what we want to say. We always use reliable and good sources. So we also try to be very much on top of the game, putting forward the latest numbers and always keeping an eye out for new data if anything comes up. So this is all I had to say about GreenSource. Like Ulrich said, I'm happy to take any questions in the end. You can already put them in the chat box as well. And with this, I'm going to hand it over to Sylvia from EOS to talk about the EU forest strategy and its implications. The floor is yours, Sylvia.
Good afternoon. Maybe you can display the next slide. Thank you. So I'm not going to speak about the entire forest strategy, but I would like to cherry pick in just one of the implications. And namely, it's the recognition of the forestry strategy of the role of a wood product in decarbonizing the built environment. But before that, the forest strategy put forward also another important recognition. And it's the fact that in order to have a forest who are resilient, who are healthy, the role of a wood-based product shall not be neglected. So this is an important element that the strategy has put forward together with, as I said before, the recognition of a wood product in decarbonizing the built environment. And these messages were provided by the highest level speaker in the executive legislative body. One has been Timmermans, and the second one, please, next slide. You can show the next slide, please. It has been put forward by Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, who emphasized how using wood in construction can actually turn our building in a carbon sink. So on behalf of the sawmill industry, we believe that these two elements are of key importance for our value chain, because we only utilize wood coming from the European forest. So we are going to build on these two main achievements in order to put forward our information campaign for the future. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Sylvia. We have had now two insights. So one on the forest strategy, and before that from Katharina on the campaign. as such, and I think it is indeed very, very good to frame it in especially in times where people have, I think, where it's more and more challenging for people to have an orientation in the internet and in the especially in the social media to find really reliable and verifiable information about the sector, and also in times where there are then campaigns against the sector. And so I think here you got a first insight what we are trying to achieve, and now in the different areas. And you have heard now on the forest strategy, and the next speaker is then Margarita Micheli, Forest Policy Manager in CEPI, about the EUDR. Margarita, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Ulrich. I will talk very briefly about another aspect of sustainability and, of course, sustainable sourcing. And I'm going to give a very first flavor of a regulation that actually will come into force very soon, and that will, let's say, tighten a bit the rules for sourcing forest products, both within the EU and outside the EU. So just to give an idea of the timeline, this is a proposal that has been proposed in November 2021, and that for which an agreement was reached roughly at the end of last year, and that will enter into force presumably the summer this year, so indicatively between May and June 2023. And the main obligations will enter into application for operators by the end of next year, so 2024. So there is some time for preparing for compliance, but not an infinite amount of time. The overall goal of this regulation is to minimize the risk that products connected to forest are imported and that somehow cause deforestation or forest degradation are imported into the EU market. And the main instrument for that is, at least from the side of operators, is an obligation to perform due diligence on the company's supply chain. This, of course, is not an innovation as such for the forest-based industry, since we know that the UTR, the EU timber regulation, has been in place for almost 10 years now. But there are significant differences in the scope, in the sense that this has been widened to a larger range of products, mostly agricultural products, but again, timber products, including wood-derived products such as furniture, and also pulp and paper, and all secondary products from that. And in second, and also this is an innovation because it has also widened the criteria, the boxes that a company has to tick before importing or exporting products into the market. And namely, one does not only have to check that the wood was harvested according to the laws of the country of production, but of course, it also has to ensure that the wood does not come from an area that was deforested or a forest that was degraded. So just to try and visualize a little bit how the new system will work. This is actually an example from the European Commission, and it's a very simplified illustration of a wood-based value chain. So of course we know that the reality is much more complex than that, but just to provide an overall view, the idea is that the operator, so the first actor that places wood on the European market, has to perform due diligence and make sure that the materials comply with the requirements that I just mentioned. Starting from there, all actors in the value chain have to somehow transfer the information to the client. if an actor is a small enterprise or small or medium, actually, it doesn't have to do again the due diligence or to provide a due diligence statement to competent authorities. However, if an actor further down the value chain, so in this example, a furniture producer, but it could be a pulp producer, a paper producer, or any intermediate or final product based on wood. If it is a large company, then it has again to submit a due diligence statement, again, before placing products into the EU market or exporting them from the EU market. And basically, he has to verify, he has to conduct a due diligence on the maybe parts that were not assessed before, or anyway, he retains responsibility for what he puts on the market. So he has to somehow check that his supplier and his suppliers have done the necessary due diligence. And on top of that, he has to disclose the plot of land or the plots of land where the wood that was used come from. So somehow going back to the start, to the beginning of this value chain. So this is more or less how the system will work according to the Commission proposed regulation and also according to the final text. Of course, in our own industry, we are already looking at since the implementation phase. So since this obligation will become effective for operators in a bit more than 1.5 years, we are looking into ways how to make this mechanism work for our industry. I will stop here, and if you have questions later on, I'm happy to reply. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margherita. And yes, so this is of course also an area that links to a long-standing, let's say, traceability tradition in the industry, where a lot of engagement with certification schemes like PEFC and FSC has happened to make sure wood comes from sustainably managed sources through chain of custody systems. So there was also a lot of looking into the EU timber regulation to see what can be done to also make the agricultural sector more sustainable in its traceability to the sources, to avoid deforestation, origin products getting into the European market. And talking about sustainable forest management origin of our products, I come to the next speaker then, who is Michel Steinecke, who will tell us about sustainable forest management, low carbon footprint, and renewable raw materials. The floor is yours, Michel.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ulrich, and good afternoon to everyone in the call. So as Ulrich mentioned, my name is Michel Steinecke. I'm the Sustainability and Circular Economy Manager at ACE. For the ones that don't know, ACE is the Alliance for Beverage Cartons and the Environment, which is an European platform for manufacturers and paperboard suppliers of beverage cartons. And today, I'll briefly talk about the benefits of using materials from sustainably managed forests and the low carbon impacts of renewable materials. And at the end of the presentation, I will also highlight some of the KPIs in the ACE roadmap that show the commitment of the industry to improve even further these aspects. So as you can see in the first slides, beverage cartons are composed by an average of 75 of wood fibers. And all these fibers are sourced from sustainable forest managed certification. And this is important because it's as the previous presentation from Margherita, it ensures that fibers are sourced from legal and well-managed forests. But it also improves the local biodiversity, respect the rights of local communities and indigenous people, increase forest growth, and also increase the carbon sequestration in the forests. And then talking about carbon in the next slides. I'll show the benefits of using renewable materials as a low carbon option. And as you can see in the image below, the results from a meta-analysis studies that was developed by Circular Analytics, where they analyzed multiple LCA studies for beverage cartons, PET bottles, glass bottles, and others. And as you can see, the results show that in average, beverage cartons emit 40% less CO2 than PET bottles and 80% less than single-use bottles, glass bottles, which concludes that beverage cartons have the lower carbon footprint for milk and juice packaging. Besides being the lowest carbon footprint packaging, it also, using renewable materials, will also sequester carbon from the atmosphere, which is very relevant, and store it in the products, and it can also be used to substitute fossil-based materials. On the next slide, the ACE roadmap shows the commitment of the industry to go even further on these aspects by only using renewable or recycled content in its packaging to continue to be the lowest carbon footprint packaging option and increase the carbon sequestration, enhance biodiversity, and increase forest growth. So that's a short presentation from me, and also if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, Michel, for that insight. And next speaker is Anna Maja Wessmann. She's the Secretary General of EPIS, and she will talk about resource efficiency. Floor is yours, Anna.
Okay, so good afternoon from me as well. Like Ulrich said, my name is Anna Maja Wessmann. I'm the Secretary General of EPIS, which is the European Pulp Industry Sector Association. Our members are market pulp producers in Europe and Latin America. And my topic is resource efficiency today. And I thought to be modern, I decided to ask artificial intelligence, ChatGPM, what that means. And the definition it gave was that it was referring to the effective use of natural resources to produce goods and services, minimizing waste and negative environmental impacts. So I thought it was quite good and decided to go with that and put it here. But it all starts from the forests. And I think this, if you remember the one thing from this afternoon, I think you should remember this picture here where I show that every part of the wood is used in a very resource efficient manner. The best parts of the tree go to sawmills as logs, and then the tree tops and bottoms, they go to pulp mills as pulpwood. But then also, if you look at the crosscut of these logs, you can see that the sawmills take first the best parts of the tree, and which is the inside lumber square there, and then the rest or their waste goes to pulp manufacturing. Also, the bark and needles are utilized. Bark can be used as cork, mulch, or energy. But then there's one exception, and that is plantation eucalyptus, which is debarked in the plantation, leaving the bark as a nutrient in the soil. What is important is that we source wood from sustainably managed forests, reducing the impact on natural resources and ensuring the long-term health of the forests so that they are there for generations to come. And as Michel just said, also 100% of their fiber was made with certified fiber. So next slide, please. Okay, so pulp and paper operations, they have equally impressive credentials with resource efficiency. There, the resource efficiency refers to recycling and reuse of materials, material and energy efficiency, and minimizing waste. While nothing new, a recovery boiler is a key piece of equipment in a pulp mill. It's also the most expensive one, probably. And to me, the name already implies resource efficiency. It not only recovers the inorganic cooking chemicals, but also generates large amounts of heat energy by burning the organic materials derived from the wood, which is the biomass. And it reduces air and water pollution by converting the waste products into useful materials and regenerates the inorganic chemicals back into pulping chemicals. And if you compare these to the definition of the resource efficiency, I think it is indeed a very, very good match. The chemical recovery rates of the main chemicals, sodium and sulfur, is at the level of 97% in a modern bleached kraft mill, making also a lot of economic sense. We have a picture here on the right lower hand corner of the liquor cycle in a pulp mill. After cooking in the so-called digester, weak black liquor is evaporated, resulting in strong black liquor, which is then burned in the recovery boiler. And from there, we obtain the green liquor, which after causticizing becomes white liquor and is again used in the cooking process and over again. Both circular and very resource efficient. The combustion heat from the recovery boiler is recovered in the form of steam. Cogeneration is the process of producing electricity from steam, and pulp mills convert the heat energy into electricity, again with a very, very high efficiency. And the surplus of this renewable energy, what the mill doesn't need itself, is sold to the grid for outside use. Optimized energy use and energy efficiency are the key words today, as we have very concretely learned this past year, not only in the industry, but also in households. Surplus steam from pulp and paper operations can be used as district heat in neighboring communities, in apartment houses and such. And the sale of renewable energy and steam, of course, enhances the business model in a pulp mill. Water recycling in pulp and paper mills has made great advances in the last few decades, in fact, since the 1990s. In the case of market pulp, 10% of the water is always shipped out with the product as moisture. With paper and board, it's merely a half of that, but the rest of the water is recycled, reused, and cleaned. And the effluent, 90% of the water, is often cleaner returning to the environment than at the time of water intake. There is not a lot of waste anymore coming out of pulp and paper operations. In 2021, the CEPI statistics number was 1%, meaning that 99% of the ingoing raw materials were shipped out as products or byproducts. The best performers are already at 100%, and that indeed can be called a very efficient use of resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anu. And indeed, I think here you have shown a number of, or let's say a number of numbers. I think that the GreenSource campaign also tries to get right, because indeed there's a lot of numbers out there on the industry, and it is an industry that is using natural resources, and it's important to remind that those are used in the most resource efficient way, building on nature and giving back to nature. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat. I see some of them are already coming in, mainly on the EU deforestation part that Margarita covered, but also if you have for the others, please don't hesitate. And I come to our last speaker, Winfried Mühling from ProCarton, about circular packaging. The floor is yours, Winfried.
Thank you very much, Ulrich. Yes, so I'm talking for ProCarton. ProCarton is the association representing the cartonboard and folding carton producers. We are representing about more than 90% of the cartonboard production in Europe. And as you could see in the previous presentation from Anu, we are basically using the top part of the trees. We are using the tree thinnings for our operations. And that is what is finally then ending up as folding boxes in the shelves of the retailers, and of course also in the cabinets of consumers. So cartonboard is a circularity champion. Why can we say it and see that we are a circularity champion? I base it on two main things. One, that is a very high recycling rate that we are achieving. We are achieving an 82% recycling rate European-wide, and this is mainly based on a very efficient collection and recycling system. That is based a lot of trust and confidence that consumers base on the recycling system. They know that these cartons will be recycled and will come back as recycled material. I think also the mix that we have in place with using virgin fibers and using carton material from recycled fiber, that is very well established in European environment and working out very well. But 82%, it is already a very high value, and you can imagine going higher than 82%, that's already quite a stretch. But the industry put forward a clear stretch, raising the bar further, going to 90% by 2030. And this, of course, will need full alignment in the supply chain. We will need the support of retailers and the support, of course, of consumers, and we fully count that we are getting there. Another most important thing for claiming to be a circularity champion, it is the resilience of a cartonboard fiber. It means how often could a cartonboard fiber be recycled? We made a trial, we made a test with the Technical University in Graz in Austria, and we could prove as one of the main outcomes was that 25 is not the limit, meaning that it can be recycled more than 25 times. And that is, I think, a very encouraging figure to truly say the material is made for circularity. And this makes us take the leadership role in circularity. I think we can claim for us, and we are proud that we can claim for us, that we live circularity, which each and every square meter of packaging material produced, and with each and every carton that leaves our factories. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this takes us to the message that we are first of all fully supporting the EU Green Deal. It is something that we are fully behind, and we will do whatever we can in our effort in order to make sure that the ambitious targets of the EU Green Deal will be met. And I think we, with cartonboard and cartons, we have a very good packaging material in place to help us there. We offer the solutions that meet today's challenges, but are also made for a carbon neutral or carbon free future made. And we also see, of course, a very increased number of applications in new categories. Yeah, so our members continuously work together also with the end users, also with the customers, to come up with new fiber-based solutions that will match new requirements. And finally, of course, the product is the one that defines the packaging material chosen, but we will make sure that we will widen the base, that we will widen the options where fiber-based material, where cardboard material can be used. And I'm also proud to say today we will be out with the message of our latest carbon footprint study. We do this every 3 years, that we really go back and check what is the carbon impact that we have, that we leave for our packaging material. So this involves more than 60 pulp factories, cartonboard producers, and folding board carton producers. And we can proudly say that from 2018 to 2021, in just 3 years, we managed to reduce the impact by 24%. So please check out our website, procarton.com. You will get all the materials in here. You can also contact me at any time, and I will be very happy to provide you any further information you might need. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Winfried, and thank you to all of the speakers. You have been doing extremely well and very disciplined in terms of timekeeping. So we have some time left for addressing the different questions, and I'll go from the start. I see that there were at least a couple so far, but let's take them from the beginning. I think the first one was from Julian Fox, and is Twitter still a viable option and or a viable platform? And I think that is probably going to Katharina, unless others also have an opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one, because indeed it is a very relevant point to bring up with everything happening. And I think, I mean, also from my professional work, this is something that we are keeping a very close eye on ever since, of course, Elon Musk took over Twitter. We're keeping an eye out on how things are developing on the platform. In the beginning, there was discussions about this new platform, Mastodon, coming up. We didn't really see that kicking off. And our analysis have also showed that currently the people that we want to reach with GreenSource are still on Twitter. So our target audience is on Twitter, which makes us also relevant on Twitter and communicating our messages on that platform. Like I said, we're still keeping an eye on this, and we'll see how everything develops, of course, because we can't really predict the future. But indeed, maybe in the future there will be a need for us to get out of the platform if we see that the people that we want to reach are also not on that platform anymore, either move to somewhere else or put more focus on LinkedIn. This is going to be, of course, up for discussion. But like I said, we're keeping the hand on the pulse, and we'll see how things develop there.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Katharina. I think then we have a block of questions that are directed to Margarita, but let's take them one by one. And the first one is not on the EUDR, but still on the currently in place EUTR, which is the timber regulation. So do we have experience how the authorities are checking the fulfillment of the EUTR, and which concrete actions are in fact necessary in the due diligence process? Question is coming from Paul Bachmann.
Yeah, it's not an easy question, because we know that there is some divergence, let's say, between the approaches of different competent authorities in different countries. So, for example, I mean, it's difficult to give just one answer, but yeah, for example, certification normally should be a good, let's say, supporting tool for due diligence. Although it's clear that is not per se a sort of green lane, so it does not in itself. I mean, according to the regulation and the competent authorities, is not, let's say, a green pass in itself. So it's, yeah, but in any case, yes, the idea is that one should minimize the risk until it can prove that the risk that that the material they put on the market does not come from illegal sources. So also documental proof is needed. But in any case, I mean, I think that when the new deforestation regulation is in place, in some way there will be a bit more of harmonization, at least on one specific point, which is this geolocation requirement. So under the information that one has to collect, one has to provide coordinates, latitude and longitude of the area where the wood was harvested. And this will be has to be uploaded into a registry, and competent authorities from different states will have access to it. So there will be a bit more harmonization. And I think that with this, I can also reply to the second question, if you, Ulrich, if you wish. So,
please go for it.
Yeah. So large industries must provide a due diligence statement, yes, to get a registration number for the UDR. what electronic system used to get a number. So I'm not a IT expert, so I'm not sure exactly, but for sure we know that the Commission, the European Commission, will develop such a platform, such a registry. So indeed, operators will upload the DDS there, and they will receive a reference number. We asked this question to the Commission: who can view the DDS statement? And the reply is the operator only. So there will be a password. We know that this platform will be available in all European languages. There will be a password, or anyway an authentication system for each operator, and only the operator can view its own due diligence statements, and of course the competent authorities and the custom authorities. But it will not be a public registry so that any consumer can access those data, or any other operator in the market. Yeah, I think I said all that we know so far. And
okay,
yeah.
Thanks, Margarita. I think then there was the question from Peter Donnerbauer. What is the background to create the obligation on the wood source information for exports outside the EU?
Yeah, I mean, again, we are not the Commission, so we can only reply, I mean, based from our interpretation and also the dialogue that we had. So the idea was indeed also because for the first time, it's not just timber, but also other kind of commodities that are included in this due diligence obligation, and commodities that are mainly sourced from outside EU. Let's imagine, I mean, we're talking about soya, cocoa, coffee, and so on. So the idea was to create and to make, I mean, to prove that the EU respects, let's say, a principle of reciprocity. So we are not just trying to let's say, create a barrier for products from outside the EU that come to the market, but we also want to uphold the same standard and apply the same rules also from products that are commodities that are sourced in the EU, processed in the EU, and exported elsewhere. So again, it's our view. The idea was to create a reciprocity. Then, of course, we know that for the EU forest-based sector, 80% or so of the wood comes from European sources, where already there are standards and there is legislation in member states at national level. So of course, it's true that the starting point for wood and other commodities is not the same. Or as Ulrich said, in our industry, we've been using certification for decades now. Maybe, okay, one thing that will be in place, and I've not mentioned before, but it's probably useful to mention it here, there will be a benchmarking system. So the Commission will somehow establish a classification of countries depending on the risk of deforestation and degradation that is assessed for that country. So if it's a high, low, or high, medium, or low risk. If a country is low risk, then one does not have to do the risk mitigation and the risk assessment and mitigation part of the due diligence, but only collect information about the supplier, the wood, and so on.
Thanks, Margarita. The next one is a very popular question from Horst Bittermann. How we approach the never-ending fear of deforestation by consumers. We have to clear that myth as soon as possible. I think that is more wide. Any of the other speakers also have some answer to that? It's not excluding Margarita, but rather including also others if they would like to comment on this. But the statement to and that consumer fear definitely got a lot of support. I see Michelle has the camera on. Is that
Yeah, I mean,
all right?
it's I think it just reinforced maybe this initiative of GreenSource. I think that's one of the ways that we can, you know, like communicate better information on forestry. So I think it's not one initiative. Obviously, it's a set of initiatives. You know, it's like a context, a history behind this. But I think initiatives such as the GreenSource, and I think the forest sector indeed need more collaboration. Indeed, it's more like a joint work to fight back. And I think distinguishing like good sustainable forest management practice to known not good forest management practice is also like a good way forward.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Others, let me know if you want to also jump on that one. Yes, Sylvia.
But another important aspect, I think, is given by the certification body like FSC or PFC. They try to have this role of ensuring the consumer about what they buy. And for what it concerns the wood timber product, these have been somehow ensuring the consumer about what they were buying. At the same time, from our side, we should also invest more in communicating what exactly is deforestation, what is illegal logging, because there is a lot of confusion also from the consumer on this aspect, and they try to mess up this aspect. So for us is certification very important, and more education for the consumer.
Great, thank you. This, Sylvia. Then we have a statement from Morem Kaina Lima Alves. It's important to work with the certification schemes to adapt them to act as a sufficient response to those demands. I think we fully agree about that one, and this is ongoing. And then we had a question I saw on the EU Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism by Dimitris Kouvalakidis. Pulp and paper products are not included in the CBAM. Is there a roadmap for our sector in the future? And we got a response by Jori Ringman, CEPI's Director General, that you can see in the chat. Or would you like to comment on this, Jori?
No, I hope it's clear.
Good. Very good, thank you. And then scrolling down, Kasmaya Christina, is this due diligence statement reference number a number for the company which is valid for 1 year, for example, or do companies get a reference number for each single business transaction? And also the following questions is back to the EU deforestation regulation. When are the country's risk assessments for the UTR available for viewing? From Karina Reinisch, MM. Margarita?
Yeah, that's a good question, or two good questions. For the first, no, according to our reading of the regulation, but I think it's quite clear, one has to perform due diligence, or at least submitted this due diligence statement for each shipment, so for each transaction. So it's not like a number that one gets for all the business transaction within 1 year. So it's really for each and every operation, which of course makes the matter quite complex, also for competent authorities, I would say. But okay, maybe I can add one more thing. So now we have the regulation, and there will be also we expect also the Commission to give us some guidance on those more detailed issues that are at the same time crucial from the point of view of a company. So really the practical guidance on the practical steps on how to do this. So this is a process that is starting now. We as CEPI, we are trying to get involved in this. So through CEPI membership, we will send you more information as soon as we have them. But in general, yes, it will be one reference for one transaction. And the second question on the risk assessment and the country benchmarking, there is an obligation, a legal obligation for the Commission to present this list by 18 months from the entry into force of the regulation. So if we imagine that the regulation is published in June, again, it would be by December 2024. So there is no such list for now. It's something that is going to be developed by the Commission in these coming months. And the obligations for the operators will enter into force only when this list is available. So the principle is that, yes, the two things will go hand in hand.
Great, thanks a lot, Margarita. Then, if I'm not mistaken, there was one last comment from Aitor Mir. So also on, agreeing that current certification schemes need to be improved. As an example, the current investigation, Deforestation Inc. broadcasted last evening, prime time, 27 countries questioning certification. So more a statement than a question. Maybe I had one that I come across when listening to Silvia and the very high level statements and encouraging statements on the construction with wood from the Commission President and Vice President. So do you already have some? Do you already see some signs of concrete actions that are on the way of implementation, or that are basically translating those high-level statements into concrete action?
One of the most concrete action is the new carbon certification proposal that has been launched by the Commission at the end of December last year. Now the legislative process is started, but in this document, the Commission would like to reward the carbon storage of wood product and create a mechanism that will allow to offset emission in other sectors. So this is a very important step that has been made by the Commission, and we welcome very much. As you perfectly know, it's going to be a long process because at the moment the document needs to be analyzed by the Parliament, so we need to see what there will be the change. But let's say the document as is written by the Commission is certainly something that we have welcomed very, very much.
Thank you very much, Silvia. Thanks a lot for all your statements. Thanks to the speakers, to answering the questions, to the participants for the interesting questions. We have close to 100 participants. I don't know if many of them know GreenSource already, or if it was your first contact with GreenSource. We hope you got more insights into what it is about, and those that already knew it. All of you, we would encourage you to follow GreenSource in the future, and thank you a lot for the attention during the past hour. Thanks a lot, everyone, and have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining.